You're listening to My Inner Teacher with Peter Sterios and Krystal Ariel. The answers you seek are within you.
I was saying this is the second time that I've seen you wear a piece of jewelry that just makes your eyes pop. Like your eyes are so blue with that feather tip. It's amazing.
I do have an affinity for blue. It's one of my favorite colors. Been learning a lot about blue actually. As of the past couple years, I've been diving into just like the study of color and how it makes us feel. And blue is just one of those colors that is just somehow tied to my heart. I even like my bottle of water. I'm like, I just love blue.
It's a great color.
Thank you.
So, Caren, I just want to, for everyone listening, just give a brief introduction on how I met you and why we're here speaking to you on the Inner Teacher podcast, My Inner Teacher. So, we met when I interviewed you on the Retreat Builder podcast, and I learned a lot about how you use paint on bodies. And we're going to talk a little bit about, I have some questions about your music that we didn't get into last time. But I thought you'd be the perfect guest to have on this, just because the way you use art to paint on bodies is so different. And even though there's lots of cultures and practices that body paint, the way that you do it and the way you came into it, really, like when you talk about your eyeliner just going rogue one day, it's like that is listening to your inner teacher and just following something that's inside of you that's telling you, yeah, just start tracing your body. So that's why I thought you'd be great to learn a little bit more about your journey to uncovering that inner teacher within you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. And it's a ever evolving unraveling, of like this listening. And I feel like I'm still on that journey every day because there's so much that changes throughout our evolution. And it just, when it comes to this idea of like the inner teacher, I'm learning again and again that it's just about the ability to tune in and create an environment or the circumstances for us to be in a deeper listening. So it's a practice for sure, especially in the world we live in today, right? With so much attention grabbing and things that options, like infinite options of where we can place our attention. So just remembering time and time again how important it is to come back to the inner guidance. So I love this theme. I love that you're creating a podcast around it because it's so important.
It's so important. I think it's like our 25th or 26th episode that we've recorded. And what I am seeing is what you just said, that there's a community that has for a long time been isolated from each other on this inner journey. And, a little bit of connection in different places, but not this idea focused around inner teacher, where people that have these experiences, no matter what the art, no matter what the practice, no matter what spiritual alignment that you have, the language is very similar. And the people, this is funny, the people are really cool. It's like, I want to hang out with all of you guys. And I can just tell with your hat, because my wife loves hats like that you'd be a person I'd want to hang out with, So thank you for being another growing part of this inner teacher community.
You and Caren have something in common because Caren, you were born in Germany, right?
I was, yeah.
She was born in Germany. So Peter's mom was born in Germany.
My mom was the first generation child of immigrants that immigrated around the 1900s. And so the other half of my family is 100% Greek, and I think I took my physical appearance looks like my Greek ancestors, but my stubbornness takes after my German ancestry.
Yeah, I was going to say your last name does not sound German.
My mother's maiden name was Schultz, and that's about
Okay.
as German as you can get.
Yeah, sehr Deutsch. Yep. Amazing. Yeah, it's fun to see the how we all are woven together and yeah.
For sure.
So, is there anything from your German upbringing that kind of guided you to this inner teacher journey?
It's hard to pinpoint what the origin of it is. Like to me it feels almost more like cosmic than this earthly lifetime, if that makes sense. But I will say, growing up in Germany definitely provided. I mean, I had a beautiful childhood, just surrounded by nature. My Opa, he's a woodsman, and I have so many memories growing up, like going out into the woods, and he'd have these little tree houses, and we'd go up in the tree houses and just be there, you know, listening to nature, watching for deer, feeding like the badgers and the wild, because hunters over there, they not are only hunting, they're kind of guarding the grounds and the watching the forest and making sure things are cleaned up in a way. Like that's something in Germany. If you ever go to the woods there, it's like it's very pristine. There's not like people that are in charge of clearing out old fallen trees and things like this. So I don't know. I feel like being immersed in nature and also the culture, I think in Europe in general, is a lot more open when it comes to, kids like running around naked, and just the stigma around bodies was very more free there. And I'm sure that played a part with kind of this open-mindedness that I carry, and just being exposed to a lot of nature, animals. I lived next to a farm. These things I think can help nourish the inner child and the child spirit, which is very much linked to creativity, right? It's how children are the ultimate artists, and I think the more we stay in touch with that piece of ourselves is how we're able to listen to that inner teacher, right? Because kids are so wise. We come into this world knowing so much on an intuitive level that, it's almost like when we're put through school and like different systems, somehow that's where we see these blocks showing up, where we had to like cover up and repress and tighten up, get in line, follow directions, raise your hand, like all these structural things. So maybe that has something to do with it. Relentlessly being a cheerleader for the inner child.
Know that journey well. I feel the same. I'm even trying to remind my 17-year-old daughter who's now kind of fully immersed into contemporary, teenage culture, that she still has that inner child, and occasionally she'll make space for it, but boy, it's rare.
Yeah.
So I have a question that popped up. Can I go here? I read that you spent 6 years in a visionary art community. Is that like an intentional community that you were a part of? Like you lived in like a true sense of the word intentional community?
Yeah, this place is called COSM, and it's an acronym for the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors. And it's a place that came into my field at a very pivotal time, around 2012-ish. And it's a very multifaceted place, but the idea is it's a sanctuary for artists, and a place that art and expression is celebrated as a spiritual practice. It's kind of a loose thing. It's kind of up for interpretation and a very open space for like however that comes through each individual that's celebrated. Yeah, and it's a mix of an intentional community that kind of is part of this mission. So Alex Gray and Allison Gray are the founders, and essentially they're these living masters and amazing teachers, and they have all this incredible artwork. And their whole mission was to create an enduring sanctuary for visionary art. So when I kind of came into it, they'd already been like decade deep into the mission of creating a temple space where people can come and see this work that I feel people connect to it on a soul level because it speaks to themes and experiences of, you know, the divine, a higher consciousness, the unseen realms. So it's very universal in the sense where people kind of connect with this imagery, and it's like, wow, okay, there is more to life. There is more to life, and there's so
Flesh
much.
and bone.
Yeah, and how are we interconnected and so many things. So that's kind of like the foundation of what ties people to this place, and I felt an affinity for it because I had already had all these experiences on my own personal journey through, you know, my own curiosity, my deepening in meditation. 2012 is also when I got really into Buddhism and spirituality as a whole, like metaphysics and crystals and chakras and all the things where you're like, whoa, no one taught me this in school. I was 2012, 22. And these themes kind of flowed in and out, and I had other experiences before this, but once I graduated college, I was really tapping more into my inner artist and having these experiences of connection while I was in my flow state in the artistic process. And so when I started to learn more about this visionary art scene, and, you know, because it's not just Alex and Allison, it's a full community of artists all around that are tapping into these different, I mean, it's like a frequency and expressing from that place. So it just felt like a home calling, or like, hey, I want to be surrounded by artists who are really giving reverence to this deeper aspect of life, and I want to be a part of it. I want to be of service. You know, fresh out of college, I was like, all right, enough with the classroom. Like, life is my classroom. I have so much to give, so much to experience, and just wanting to be open to whatever life had in store. That's how I ended up there, and it was really through a series of synchronistic moments. I was on tour actually with my partner, who's a musician, and he and his band played at a festival one summer, and it happened to just be stacked with all these artists that had just recently come into my field of like, wow, these are my people. Like, I really want to just like put myself in the same zone. So I just brought my easel, brought my canvas. This was maybe the second time I ever had live painted, and I just joined in, and it was one of the most inspiring things to witness, like a sea of 80 artists set up in the crowd, just live painting to the music. And I was like, wow, all right, more of this. And then someone I happened to meet happened to work there, and we hit it off, and she invited me to come volunteer there for 3 weeks. And then it became my home for 6 years because it just felt very, it was the grad school I had always prayed for that no one told me existed.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I want to ask you about the tribe thing, because a lot of times when we think follow your inner teacher, it's almost like this personal journey to find your voice and to find your purpose. But there's this other aspect of it that when you're following your inner teacher, you start attracting other people who are doing the same. And like you were saying earlier, Peter, you just feel like you found your tribe, people that you want to hang out with. So, yeah, what can you tell us about, like, in that moment that you started following your intuition and then you started finding other people that were aligned with that? How did that make you feel, or how did you know that, you were on the right path? Hey, quick note. Peter's Inner Teacher Academy is launching soon. If this is resonating with you, head over to innerteacheracademy.com and grab a spot on the wait list. These trainings are intimate and space is limited. So if you want to be first in line, tap the link in the description below and sign up.
You can also see details about my 2025 retreats at some incredible locations around the world, like Iceland, Austria, California, and New Zealand. Attendance at these trainings will count towards in-person hours for the Inner Teacher Academy. And now let's get back to the magic.
Great question. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like from early on, there's always been a deep-seated feeling of wanting to belong. And in like early years of like early teenage years, I feel like I was always on a quest to find my people, and it wasn't always that easy, going through times where I felt like I had to change in order to fit in. And then once my inner teacher told me to rebel against that thought of like, no, like you be you, like you can't fight who you are and your natural inklings of what you want to express and how you be in the world, then that whole other door opens. So it's from that seeking energy to the being energy. And I guess when I started to allow my impulse of artistry and following that higher joy or this kind of enticement for life to land, then it's like the universe responded by showing me where these other people might be. And even just that piece of art and the desire to show up as an artist is very unifying. So yeah, I think it's kind of in tandem where like when we follow what we're passionate about and what we are interested in, then it's almost like life presents these pieces and these people that can match that energy. That's what I'm finding.
So that is a very familiar story that you're hearing here on this podcast. And I like to bring it down, ground that into how do you make a living following that passion? How did that, I'm assuming you're making a living because, you have that feel of, there's no need in your life. There's a delightful openness to what life brings to you. How do you, I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always looking at, well, how do we monetize that? Where does the money flow? Because really, you've heard this, money is just an energy, a form of energy. And when you're in flow, the money usually follows that. That's been my experience. And there have been times in my life where I've made more money than I can use. I gave some of it away. And then the pandemic years hit, and then it was just like, oh, this is a little different, like there was quite a shift in the first 3 or 4 years of the pandemic. And for me, that mindset of, I don't know, was it, you said something when you introduced yourself about this craziness that we're living in. So whenever I hear people refer to the craziness that we're living in, then I think about the last 5 years, because the last 5 years is pretty unprecedented on a global scale. Like, we've had pandemics before, but this was beyond a virus, at least this virus that they told us it was. So how do you connect or what is it that you think is bringing substance to your life, that in terms of financial, to support yourself?
Yeah. Also great question. I would say, well, it's interesting because when I stepped into the chapter of living in community, I was fortunate enough to, it was almost like a petri dish where I had all of it provided all of my base needs, like housing, food, community. I mean, I worked really hard to help make all the things happen. But it was a huge gift to see and have mentors with artists like Alex and Allison, who have created so much from their vision and their artistry, and seeing how a devotion to a vision and just consistent nourishing that vision and enrolling people to join that, and just the gift of art, like all the different varieties of ways that it can be shared in the world, you know, between prints and blankets, like all these different products that art can be produced. So that's like one avenue. You have art. I don't even like calling them products, but just pieces of art that can be shared with the world that people feel value from. So yeah, just it created an atmosphere where I could develop my own artistic voice and develop my paintings, which then, you know, people can buy. That's
Right.
one avenue. And then, yeah, I guess besides that, just to like on a deeper level of your question, what drives and what gives that sustenance, I feel like a big piece is finding the value and the payment that life gives us in the many forms. So I feel like, of course, there's like the base needs. We need financial abundance to interact and survive in this system, this matrix that we're kind of interconnected with. But between community and finding the richness in life in its other forms, and then finding ways that can then be shared and spread to bring value to others, to the point where they want to be in that receiving end, right? Like reciprocity. So I think our world is starved and hungry for true nourishment of the spirit, of the what is real, what is authentic. And yeah, the more that we can be in touch with that within ourselves, the more we can offer that to the world. And I'm still in that dance. Of finding the different avenues where I can do what I love, I can feel free to do what I love, and then also be of service to others. It's not always a breeze, you know. It can feel very like romanticized, of like, just follow your heart and the universe will provide. And like, yes, that's true, but I will tell you, I've had many moments where I'm like, wait, what the fuck is happening? Because can I do this? I also live in Los Angeles, one of the most expensive cities of the world, and I felt moments of like, oh my gosh, I don't know. But, you know, together, I feel lucky to be in partnership where we're both doing the creative thing, but we can kind of pile our resources together and come together and support. And, you know, it's a dance. I'm still figuring it out, to be honest. Yeah.
I think that's the perfect answer. It's a work in progress, even for me at my age, and all the things that I've accomplished in the matrix, and then where I see myself now. And most men my age would be thinking about country clubs and retiring, you know, and I feel like I'm still plotting the next chapter of my life, like in service, just like you, with a creative field, which I use yoga for, and yoga, not just your kind of convenient, what I call convenient yoga, which is the class down the street with the teacher that just graduated from their 200-hour teacher training, like that's convenient yoga. I've just been blessed with a lineage of teachers that go back thousands of years. And it feels good on one level to be a part of this particular lineage because there's a history of innovation and moving beyond what your teacher taught you. And so I feel really good in this kind of avenue that I've detoured, let's call it, from mainstream yoga into something more artistic, to be honest, creative. It's intuitively led and connected to some divinity that is hard to define. And it's just Alex's work has inspired me when I saw his book when I was just starting yoga, and it was just like, wow, okay, this is that. The other part of me is architect, like that's what I graduated university. So the creativeness and the color, form, Alex's work is just spectacular. So, yeah, I don't know how I rambled into that, but it's here.
Totally. Yeah, well, I just want to say, I think what you said about kind of veering from what the teachers are guiding, like it's so invaluable to integrate those teachings and be open to the lessons and see what's worked for other people. But I'm a firm believer that all of us are so unique in our paths. Like every single step that has brought us to this very moment shapes our worldview, how we see things in our own unique lens. And that's something that only we know. And no one can hand us the map to that other than ourselves. And like, yeah. Yeah. And it takes courage. It takes courage to follow that pulse and to trust ourselves, because there's so much trial and error and also just, leaps of faith in ourselves that there is no wrong turn in a way, there's only learning. So I think some people stop themselves before taking any kind of risk associated with their inner teacher because they're afraid to fail, whatever that means. And then there's also the failure in never trying. So it's kind of like, which door do you choose?
And I love that you said that about, when people say, just follow your dreams, like it's the easiest thing in the world because it's challenging and it tests you on so many levels. So, I mean, I know it tests me all the time, like one day I'm super optimistic and I'm like, yes, let's do this. Everything's going to be amazing. We're full of abundance. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, I'm a failure. I suck. Nothing is working. And you just go through through that feeling of yo-yo. So for people listening that are like, yeah, I go, they're relating to that. What's your take, or what have you learned from those moments?
I know the yo-yo well. I do. I think it's a muscle. I think it's a training point. I think it gets easier over time. I think when we go through the cycle enough times, it's a pattern we can recognize. And if we can I think that's where meditation comes in. I think zooming out and seeing it for what it is, not making it wrong, not making it like something's wrong with me. Passion being like just knowing that this is the human experience, baby. This is what it is. And those moments when you break through, when you finally get over that hump and you stay committed to that inner teacher told you to move towards, I find that those moments are so rewarding, so affirming, and nothing can convince me otherwise. So that's the secret sauce that keeps us moving forward, you know?
I have a personal question to ask. Like, are you an intention setter?
An intention setter, yeah.
Yeah, like, do you wake up in the morning and intend your future life to be one way or?
Yes, yes. And I think that word intention is somehow evolved into like many things, but at the core, when we think of intention, it's like, what am I aiming for? And I feel like I used to be more like rigid with my goal setting. And right now I'm in a season more so of just anchoring a feeling. I found has been more, I don't know, just more resonant with where I'm at right now. Instead of being like, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's more like, this is the feeling that I want to anchor into my body. This is the feeling I want to move towards. Yes, there are action steps to certain goals and projects and offerings that I want to put out, but it's really just in this frequency of love and creativity and service. And that can change, you know, that those feel like big anchors at the moment. Obviously, yeah, we're always evolving, but I think there's huge power in intention at its core, because
Without a doubt.
where are we pointing our arrow if we're not clear with that and have a repetitive check-in with ourselves? And that's also why with body painting as a practice, and that's not the only way it shows up, because I do have a daily morning practice. It's something we get to come back to and remind ourselves and refresh ourselves and clear stagnant energy, and then come back in with that intention and that, where am I aiming today?
Yeah, I have had this background in intention setting, just and having a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, just in my childhood, and the way, you know, children of immigrant parents, you know, who fled war, both sides of my family fled war in Europe to arrive here. And there was some karmic, generational karma that kind of followed them into my parents' generation and then followed it into my generation. And I see it a lot. And what I've found, though, is a lot of that intention setting is based on fear, a fear of something, you know, a lack or whatever. And I was very successful in business with setting intentions. But oftentimes that goal or that achievement of reaching that intention came with things that I didn't anticipate. That actually, it's like that, is it good or is it bad thing? You know, is it good? Well, maybe, but it could be bad. Or is it bad? Well, it could be, but maybe it's good.
Yeah.
And that happened enough to know that I'm now in a different place around intention setting. And it's more about not, the arrow has to be aimed for sure. But once that is released, the arrow has got a lot of influence of where it actually ends up.
Yeah.
And so the mantra or the prayer is more about, once the arrow leaves, be open to possibilities, because possibilities are infinite. And who am I in this limited mind to tell the arrow where to end up? because my life is just this podcast is a perfect example. My arrow was not pointing at a podcast.
Yeah.
And here we
Yeah.
are.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And it kind of just goes to show or come back to the remembrance that I don't think we're in control at all. And this is where, you know, having that divine trust in life comes into play. And I totally hear you. I hear you so much on that piece around intention and not knowing, or just being open to the infinite possibilities, and who's to say what our little tiny human mind can even fathom. I mean, it's humbling because we do on one hand. So again, it's like the pendulum that we're talking about. It's on one hand, we're such powerful beings. The way we show up in the world, the language, communication, the actions we take on a daily basis. I mean, there is something to a ripple effect when you show up a certain way. But the more we get caught in this future orientation of, all right, we're working towards this. It's so funny because as I'm speaking, I'm also feeling the paradox in it.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
Of course.
it's just a giant paradox because, you know, like think about like the steps it takes to build a temple. I mean, you can have a vision and you just hammer it in day after day, and like, this is what's happening. This is where these paintings are going to go. This is where, you know, you spend every single day imagining it and getting other people to imagine it. And then that's how art like comes to life. We're literally taking what's up here or in here and materializing into this 3D realm. And that you can have an intention, and then you take the action steps to then create it, and that's the beauty of being in this co-creatorship of life. So it's yes, and it's all of it.
And you got to have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know, 'cause
Absolutely.
sometimes the universe is pretty funny. You
Yeah.
know, looking back, hindsight, looking
Yeah.
back. Oh my God. You know,
Yeah.
that's funny.
And it's also like there's a difference between an intention and an impact, right? We see this all the time. Like, people can have certain intentions, but like, what's the actual impact? Sometimes it doesn't always work out the way we think it's going to. And everyone's having their own experience on that thing. So it gets very multifaceted once we go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. I do have this trust in what is referred to as the human soul. Like, that is this enduring quality that is multi-generational. And I feel this relationship with soul in others, like both of you right now on this digital plane. There's soul in the exchanges that are taking place here. And is that just in my imagination? I don't believe it is. And we've talked in the past episodes about this maybe unforeseen, but now it's the world we live in, where we are communicating with people on the other side of the planet, and there's more than just words and sounds being exchanged. There's feelings being exchanged. There's soul transmitted, and there's enough science to show that they do these tests where a community of meditators focuses on crime in Detroit, and for the 2 months of the meditation, you've seen these studies or heard about these studies. For the 2 months that these meditators were focusing on this peaceful Detroit, the crime rate dropped statistically significantly. So that's where the paradox that you're describing, that I've also seen and experienced, there is the undercurrent of the human soul. And I mean, we've survived as a species to this moment. And even though the appearances are we don't have long to live, but as a species, but in my feelings, in the world that I choose to operate in, that is the feeling of I have trust in the human soul, period. Uh, and it's an enduring. It wasn't created by accident, and it's evolving. We're being tested. We're walking away from the kind of institutions and communities that supported our livelihood to find alternate communities and energies that are more aligned. And you're a perfect example of someone who's been following that for, however many years you've been on this planet. I'm really impressed because your age on the screen, you look like you're 24. And so I'm thinking, oh my God, when I was 24, I wasn't talking like this. And I know you're not 24, but still energetically, there's a youthfulness in you that is wise, incredibly wise. And it's refreshing. You feel that, Krystal?
I do. Yes. That's why I love her.
I love you.
I love you. Hey, listen, I have there's a question I want to ask. Oh,
Yeah,
did you see
you
that?
just gave some heart beams. It was
Wow, that's cool.
amazing.
There's a question I want to ask. I need to be very delicate in because the intention is love, and the intention is, I know last time we spoke, we talked about body paint in other cultures throughout history. And there's this term appropriation and appreciation. This question has nothing to do about that, because we're going to put that aside for a moment. And I want to think about, like when people are listening to their inner teacher is not thinking about those things or politics or what's right and wrong. It just is. It just exists. And it expresses itself through the portal that it chooses to. We don't get to choose, like what is expressed through us. So like if someone finds themselves in a situation where something's wanting to come up, but they're like, oh my God, I can't do this thing because I don't have that lineage, or I don't have that background, or like what do you say to that voice of fear of being canceled or fear of being whatever it is, because you're just being you and this thing wants to come out?
Excellent question. I feel that. Well, I would say that yes, all those, like, we can't choose how our creative impulses decide to come out. I mean, I didn't know that my eyeliner would go rogue one day and it would lead down this path of teachings in their own right. Like, to me, the art in itself is the teacher. And when it's connected to something so ancient as body art, and we see it being practiced in all the different cultures, like, to me, when I started diving deeper into that study of like, all right, well, what are the origins of this art form, and seeing how universal it is, it was just a clue to something even deeper. And like, what are we made of? Again, it goes back and back and back. And yes, our lineages and our ancestors on this earth plane have a lot to do with that, and it's important to honor that. But I feel what I've come to learn is that our true ancestors are the elements. And when we look at the building blocks of creation, we have the fire, the water, the earth, and the air. And these are the building blocks that connect all of us, no matter where we were born, no matter what lineage we are. Like, I think I'm on the team of humans coming back to the remembrance that we are all one tribe of humanity. We all bleed the same blood. We are all in these bodies having this human experience. And that is what the art and these contemplations teach me. And anyone that decides to choose to see that through the lens of division and ownership and kind of like this, you can't do that, that takes away the essence of freedom and creative expression, which is everything that I stand for. So I don't subscribe to that. And also, I think all cultures are beautiful and profound and have so much wisdom. So I'm a forever student to what the different takes on the art form are. So I would love to call in more experiences with teachers from other lineages to share their unique take. But all I can do right now is follow my inner teacher, what the art has guided me intuitively to pursue and share and express. And what that keeps bringing me home to is this truth that we are one human tribe and here to honor the elements of life. So that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, taking the ancestry back to the elements is powerful. Like that image. The lineage that I study with, there's a fifth element. Do you know what the fifth element is?
Spirit?
Space. Spirit. Space or spirit. I mean, depending on the culture, it's this non-physical aspect, which on a quantum level, they're starting to see that space has some physicality to it, which is, how do you hold that? But the yogis, the tradition of yoga has this last element of space. And in a way, we're all children of space, like cosmic dust, whatever you want to call it. And when my journey was through yoga was reached its peak literally when I broke my back, because the breaking of a back it's one of those moments in life where you can't trick yourself. You can't, avoid it. You can't escape it. It's just there. And what are you going to do with it? And you can look outside yourself, or as what I ended up doing, I had to look deep within myself when I made the decision not to have the surgery, not to go that route. And what I discovered through trial and error is space. And how do I create space? With softness. And how do I create softness? With surrender. These aren't things that you learn in business school.
Yeah.
Or even ancestral. My families were very industrious people. They were people who made shit and did shit and got shit done, So yeah, I think that space element has been revealed to me in a very concrete way. That's the paradox of words. But I have this deep relationship with space, both external galaxies above and then galaxies within. And it's just, my experience has given me that framework to operate in. But I've been finding it really useful in these last 5 years to remind myself about that connection to space and the gift of space in terms of how the other elements operate and how it all comes together in the human being, which you eloquently have brought us aware of. I think it's perfect. I wish everyone could have that experience, and not just something to learn, but something you are.
Absolutely. And it is, it's who we are. You can't escape it. You literally can't. And I love that you're speaking into the space, because that is so alive and relevant to what I'm I'm deep in that right now of just wanting to create more space. And yeah, it's a one of those paradoxes, because we've been tricked into thinking that the more that we do and the busier we stay, the more happens. But then there's another layer, this other deeper wisdom of spaciousness and slowing down and listening and dropping in to the body and what's underneath the noise. And it's something that we don't gift ourselves enough in our modern world. And that's a shame because there's so much there. And yeah, even just taking a break from socials. I mean, just, do you know the power that's in just like deciding to tune off? Like just quiet the noise so that you can hear the deeper layers again. I mean, then real things start to move in a more steady way. At least that's what I'm finding.
And how did you start moving into music?
Ooh, okay, Krystal. Music. I think music's always been a part of me. I mean, I grew up playing piano. I always loved like music class. I think my earliest memories are in elementary school, you know, being in the chorus, and I had a couple solos. And then when I moved to the States, that was one of the classes I was like, ooh, I want to be in choir. And I joined the choir. And then there was this one pivotal moment where we were all singing individually the different parts, and each person was singing their part. And I just felt like the nerves of being watched all at the same time just got to me. And like my voice, it just did not hit that note on that day. And I felt so humiliated. I felt so just embarrassed, and it shut me down. It like just closed my throat chakra, and I was like, oh, I never want to sing in public again. So that was like the 7th grade. And it's wild because it took quite a long time for me to come back to my voice and singing, and even just my love for singing. And my partner, who I'm with today, we met around that we met in 2010. And this was a time, like that time when I was starting to step into my artistry again, and music was a big part of that. And just remembering the love I do have for music, and I'd sing to myself and in the car, outside, in the shower, and just like the feeling of the voice, it is so healing. So slowly and surely I just started to sing more, and like we'd have jams where everyone was playing their instruments, and you know, just kind of improv, low pressure. So it kind of warmed me back up. And then when I moved to Cosm, actually, this was another gift that came from being there, because we would have these monthly full moon gatherings, and I would challenge myself, because I was doing like the organization of what artists are going to present during the ceremony. And so I would just like slide myself in there periodically. I'm like, all right, Caren, here you go. Like, you're going to sing a song. And anytime I would do that, oh, the nerves, you know, just like buzzing, my physical body would just, it was kind of intense. But once I sang, even if it wasn't perfect, the feeling I felt afterwards to just do that scary thing and challenge myself to just do it, and I could feel just energy moving. It's like little checkpoints, right? When we get tested and we do the hard thing, and then we rise to the occasion, and then it's like doot, 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 level accomplished or whatever. Upgrade. And yeah, that became a muscle as well, to continue just putting myself out there and singing. And it was really in 2020 where the world shifted and as we knew it, and there was more spaciousness to pour into creativity. I had left Cosm like right at the end of 2019 intuitively, because I followed my inner teacher, just knowing, all right, this is your time. Moved, and then everything was different. And this was the year where I could really dive into my self adornment practice. And Smiley and I, my partner, actually had enough time to come together and truly collaborate. And that's where Chroma Smile, our music project, was born, because it was like, what happens when we actually pour our creativity into one being? We call it our love child, because it really fuses his musicality. I mean, we would sit and write music together. He's like, I mean, such a wizard. That's a whole other story. But he would play, I would sing, kind of adding into the mix. And then I would kind of create an adornment to match the vibe. And together we would film and take creative video clips. And then we would just spend days and days and days just editing together. Like, and he was kind of the mechanical, like, he knew the program very, he was learning, but he would be kind of at the dashboard, like the captain, and I'm like in the back, like, well, what if we do this? Like, can you make it so this scene comes in? All these transitions, and he's like, oh, you mean like this? Do, 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 do. And boom. So that's kind of how our creative process worked together to form what is now Chroma Smile. And we did have more time to do videos back in 2020. It's been a minute, but now the music is a lot of healing has happened in my throat chakra, to where I'm at a point now where I'm allowing more music to come through. It's very exciting. So
Amazing.
Sorry, went a little bit on a rant there.
No.
You're passionate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so refreshing to give people space to voice their feelings and share that with listeners that who know who they are even, really. I mean, I kind of have a sense that the people that are going to be attracted to listening to people like us talk are going to be people that can appreciate what we're talking about. So I thank you. That was beautiful. I'm right on the point of tears myself.
Yeah, that was great. Well, thank you, Caren, for joining us for this chat, and maybe we'll do a part 2.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's
maybe,
still so much.
and maybe, because we've had some couples on, maybe
Yes.
Ben would like to join us.
Absolutely. I'm sure he would love to do that.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Yay.
That's it for this episode. Be well and stay open to the teacher within. If you've enjoyed our time together, follow or subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming chats you don't want to miss.